Oh, hi. I just made it. I ran and ran as fast as I could, and I finally made it here. You know, today I want to talk to you about some books about running and never giving up and going through problems but coming out on the other end even better. Now, we've all heard of this little fellow. He was baked in the oven by an old lady and an old man. And when he popped out of the oven, he yelled, "I'll run away from you. Run as fast as I can. You can't catch me. I'm a gingerbread man." Well, that story about running was maybe one of the first about running away from something. Probably not. But we have so many books about the gingerbread boy. We even have a book about the gingerbread girl. Check those books out and see if you can read as fast as you can. And try to catch this guy. He's the gingerbread man. Now also, as we're talking about races, there's one of those famous races by Aesop, one of the earliest storytellers, about the hare and the tortoise, or the tortoise and the hare. Now in that story, you'll recall, and we have a lot of different books. There's the really groovy story of the tortoise and the hare. There's the great race. But that story, they all deal with persevering to the end. You'll remember the hare was zippity-doo-dah all the day, and he thought, "The tortoise, I can win him. No problems, no sweat." And so he kind of relaxed. He kind of rested a bit. And the tortoise went ahead and finally won the race. Something that the hare did is he finished the race, and that's always important. Now, all these books that I've been reading were about running and races, but I have to tell you a few that I really enjoyed. As I was getting ready to tell some stories or to do this book talk, I found a book that was kind of like the tortoise and the hare in that I was slow to read it. It's called Sidetracked, and it's by Diana Harmon Asher. And the book starts with Joseph, and he's a boy that has learning, well, he doesn't learn like everyone else. And he's in 7th grade, and he decides to join the track team because of some help from a new girl whose name is Heather. Now, as I was reading the book, it was taking me forever. I felt just like the tortoise. I would read the book and put it down, and I'd read it and put it down. But all of a sudden, as I was about this much through the book, I decided, I just don't think I can get through this book. But, like the tortoise, I decided I would read through it. Can I tell you that what happens to Joseph and to Heather and all the characters in this book had me really embracing the race. And as he got that, well, I'm not going to tell you, but he might have gotten a medal, and it might have been unusual, and you might not have thought that he could have won a medal. But read it. There's a bully, and bully kind of like that hare. He says, you can't do it. But he persevered. And I really liked that book. There was another book that I just had to read. It was a brand new book. And it was about a man from India who ran a marathon, which is 26.2 miles. He was the oldest marathon runner. He was 100, and he's still running races. When he was 89, he ran his first race, and he started to really enjoy racing. When he was born, he couldn't even walk for years and years. But his mother taught him some very good advice that I would teach you. It was choose yes when you meet a challenge, and keep trying and never give up. When he was younger, he was bullied, and he couldn't read, and he couldn't walk. But his mother told him, you know yourself, and you know what you're capable of, and today is a chance to do your best. I was fascinated. Fauja Singh keeps going. The true story of the oldest person ever to run a marathon. I think you'll be surprised if you read that book too. Now, as I was reading about people running and people running away, because usually when you're in a race, you're running from something and going to get someplace else. There's a new series called Great Escapes. Great Escapes are actual historical events that really took place. And this is Great Escape's Civil War breakout. In Richmond, Virginia, they had a prison they called Libby, and all the Union soldiers that were captured were sent there. Now, the conditions were terrible, and it was an awful place to be sent to. And a few people decided that they would try to escape. Ooh, you'll hear about what happens to these people. And I was on my edge to the very end. Will he make it? Will he not? I'm not going to tell you, but I will tell you some things. They had to dig a tunnel, and this place was infested with rats. And many times they had to just lay in the dark with rats crawling all over them. It was a dirty place, lice infestations. They didn't have much to eat, but what a story. How many made it out? How many didn't? What happened to the men? Great Civil War breakout. And then a last book I want to tell you about. Now you think, well, I think that the 50s, I was born in the 50s. This gray didn't come, just out of a bottle. It came out of living. And so there was a book that I was interested in called Her Fearless Run. Now this is about a woman named Catherine Schweitzer. And in the 50s, girls weren't supposed to sweat. They weren't even supposed to run. In fact, they weren't allowed to run in marathons. But Catherine liked to run. And she ran and she thought, I'm gonna run a marathon, 26.2 miles. Well, in 1967, no women or girls were allowed to run. They were not supposed to sweat. They weren't supposed to do things like that. And she got in with a trainer that she'd been working with. And she worked and she went a few miles more and a few miles more and a few miles more and a few miles. And finally she was ready to run that marathon. And she had a number. Now, when she had a number, that meant she could run it. And as she was running, she was pulled over. And she was told, get out, you can't run the marathon, you're a girl. She showed them. She was the first woman to run that marathon, the Boston Marathon. And because of her, she opened the way for many others to run. Oh, well, I can see it's about my time to run. But I hope you check out some of these books. Find your own running books, run to them, and choose yes when you meet a challenge. And if a book seems too hard, or you get through a book and you just can't push through it, try to read more until you get to the end. In this book, they had PR, your personal record, your personal best. Go for something a little more. Read a little longer. And try to read those books that maybe don't appear to be really sci-fi, shoot 'em up, really exciting books, but embrace the characters in them and know that they're people just like you and me running that human race. Well, I gotta go. See ya.